I want you to envision the ideal version of you. What do you look like? How do you feel? How much money do you have in your bank account? Think about all of the different aspects that make you up. What kind of relationships do you have? How old are you when you retire? Kind of this ideal version that you want to become. Now let me ask you this. What is preventing you from becoming that ideal version of yourself? All right, you can open your eyes. This is what we're going to be talking about. This is the promise of Relationshift, is through the power of relationships, you can become that ideal version that you just imagined. It's a philosophy that's been around for thousands of years. Socrates talked about it in 400 BC. Buddha's talked about it 100 years before that. Jesus talked about it. Philosophers, the smartest people around us, have talked about the power of relationships. And they left behind clues to a system, a 3-step process that allows us to take advantage of the power of relationships, the power of peer pressure. Remember back to middle school, and you had the right backpack, you had to wear the right clothes, right? We call it peer pressure. Well, the truth is, we're still those same people. We still are affected by peer pressure. We just do it in more subtle, sophisticated ways as adults. We still have a certain idea in our mind of what retirement looks like, where do we want to live, what kind of lifestyle should we have. All of that comes through peer pressure. And so what we're going to talk about today is those 3 keys, and I want to give you practical shifts, practical steps that you can make in order to apply this in your life. Because what I found is a lot of people say, this is common sense. I already believe that relationships help make me who I am. You wouldn't be in this room if you didn't believe that. But there's a lot further that I found that we can take it. So I became interested in Relationshift, I'd say about 10 years ago. And I started to see how relationships had actually defined who I was through all of my life. If you go all the way back to the beginning when I was a kid, I was born in a bad part of LA. My dad was a con man, he was a drug dealer. First time I went to Disneyland, he pretended to work there, and it was Take Your Son to Work Day. We snuck in the back. That's kind of the legacy that I was born with, that I grew up with. And because of that, I mean, I didn't really think about it, but looking back, I can see, hey, I had kind of a bunch of crime in my background, getting arrested, dealing drugs, I had a teenage pregnancy, all this stuff. I didn't really think about it at the time, but now looking back, I'm like, well, that kind of fits. That's what I learned from my dad. And then I had a time where I didn't want to be like him, and I was going to be better than that. So I started into business, and I did really well. I got really great grades in college, ended up becoming a millionaire by 25 years old. But I didn't have relationships still to help me through that. I didn't really know how to run a company. I didn't know how to keep money or manage it. So I ended up losing everything by about 28. And then the economy was really bad, and I tried to get a job. I applied for 2,000 different jobs, and I couldn't get a single interview. Obviously, I was doing something wrong, and if I had known you guys, I probably would have done a lot better. And that's kind of the point. I didn't know what to do. I had been raising myself, teaching myself everything without having any kind of people around me from which I could learn. And that's when I discovered, I didn't even know what networking was called. I discovered the power of networking. Through that, I got a job, I got to reboot my life. And since then, I've gone on and had a much better trajectory. I've been able to start businesses, sell them. Right now, I'm running a venture capital funded company. The financial side of my life is taken care of. I don't even need to worry about that anymore. Just in the last 6 years, since I started learning about the power of relationships. I ended up getting my doctorate because I was so interested in the power of what can be brought into our life through the power of relationships. And I studied networking in my doctorate. And I learned that it affects so many parts of our life, so many parts of the business world. a company that has the right kind of network structure, the right kind of people who are connected in the right way, is more innovative. People, like salespeople, close more deals if they're connected in a certain kind of way. CEOs run companies that grow faster, they're more profitable. All of this is proven to be related to relationships. And the thing is, it's not just about success. That's where I think a lot of us go with networking, because we have a certain preconceived idea, which we got from somewhere, that networking is about business, but it actually affects all what I would call the 7 different pillars of wellness. So that's love, family, friendship, mind, body, spirit, and money. Relationships can actually help you become the ideal version of yourself in all 7 of those pillars. So let's dive into the 3 shifts, because I want to give you really practical input on how you can actually make use of this. The first shift is reimagine your reality. A lot of people believe in this idea that I call one truth. And I think we all kind of believe it, either in big ways or small ways, that there's this one truth that we have to discover. And once we discover that, then we're going to know what to do. So how to have a happy marriage, right? So we want to find the one truth. How do you have a happy marriage? Or we want to find the one truth on how do I have a whole spirit? How does my spirit feel and happy? And so we go searching for this one truth, thinking that there's just one way to do it. So if I was to ask around the room, what is the key to success? We're going to do this later. I think we would get as many different answers as there are people in this room. So what if one of you thought, well, I actually know the key, and all the rest of you are wrong? That is what one truth demands us to believe, is that the idea that we have is the one true idea, or if we change our mind, we're actually just discovering, what the one truth actually is. We're finally realizing it. We call it that, rather than what's really happening, which is just we're choosing what to believe. Right? Believe demands faith, and in faith, you're choosing to believe something that you can't prove. That's the definition of faith. And if we choose it, then we can choose something else. It's our choice. The reason why this is important is because the first thing that we need to do in order to become that ideal version of ourselves that you imagine is to believe that it's even possible. And what I found is a lot of people believe that it's possible in 1 or 2 areas of their life. I believe that I can retire wealthy with the lifestyle that I want. But they have these little limitations that they place that add up to a big limitation. Like, I can get wealthy and I can get that, but I'm never going to have a great relationship with my dad. Or, my marriage is just going to be okay. That's fine. That's just the way life is. Marriage is hard. It's hardly anybody actually had a happy marriage. But I'm going to go be successful, and that's fine. I can accomplish that. So you see how we can believe that we can create our own reality in one area, but be limiting ourselves in other areas. So there's these insidious little truths that we believe, hey, this is actually the way the universe works, and I can't really fight it. But if we were to look at that, we might find that a lot of those things that we're choosing to believe are actually subjective. Because there's other people in the world who believe something different. It's working for them, right? So the first step is we must reimagine our reality. We have to believe in a reality. We have to choose to accept responsibility for the world that we live in. If we live in a world where we can make $5 million by the end of our life, and that's the best we can hope for, and that is going to lead to a certain lifestyle, we've chose to live in that world. And we might even say, well, that's because I was born into a certain situation, and people who make more than that or have a different lifestyle, they had something else given to them. They were born into a different situation. But the truth is, the relationships that we have affect us more than DNA, more than the money we're born with. The reason why rich people often go on to have rich kids is because they inherit the relationships of the parents. It's not so much that they inherit the wealth, it's that they grew up seeing mom and dad run businesses, so they thought, well, I could do that. And yeah, there are other tangible benefits. Sure, DNA does affect where we go. I will never be a Major League Baseball player, right? No matter how much I practice. So there are objective truths. And the small shift that you can make in order to apply this in your life is very simple. It's just spend a little time every day meditating or reflecting on the limitations that you might be placing on yourself. Because all of us do it. No matter how big of a dreamer we are, we all find little ways to limit ourselves. I'll give you just one example. We might think, man, I'm really stressed today. I've got to go to my child's soccer game at 3, so I don't have a full day to work. It's going to be a stressful day. Right? Can you see any limitations in that? One is that you have to be stressed if you have a lot to do. 2, that you even have to go to work. Maybe you don't even have to go to work that day. Maybe the world will keep spinning if you just took the day off. It's very hard. We have to let go of this concrete world that we've built and accept that there's actually fluidity to it. To things that we think are concrete, it's very hard to do. Once you have reimagined your reality, once you have let go of some of those limitations, it's time to loose ourselves and explore, where do we want to go? Imagine in each of those 7 areas how you want, what's the ideal version? And you might be thinking, again, that it's not possible, or it's too much work. Those are those little limitations kicking in. Because it is possible. Because somebody else has done it, right? If somebody's done it, you can do it. So we start to revise our direction based on this new reality. And it's a cyclical process. You know, as we go through this, we find our reality continues to expand. Our directions are going to continue to change, which is normal. You know, we can't know everything when we get started. I researched tons of really successful people, and they had a common trait. One was that they tended to move before they were ready. They started things and they did things that they weren't actually qualified to do. And then they learned as they went. What do most of us do? We want to wait until we're ready. Oh, I need to go get a degree to figure out how to do that. The people that like the world shakers, they just do it. And they stumble and they fail, and then they end up changing the world. So as we're moving through this process, we want to be thinking about, what do we want to be? The small shift we can make in this, the small change, is simply to imagine, to envision us in that future state. So as we're doing that morning reflection, just picture what life is going to be like when we get there. I think a lot of people may not trust this idea that what you envision becomes reality. And I was thinking about how do you prove that? And I would ask you this, if you're kind of skeptical about that idea, who is more likely to travel to Paris? Somebody who imagines at some point traveling there, or somebody that has never thought about traveling there? It's pretty obvious. And if somebody imagines it all the time, they're probably going to make it a reality. It's not magic. I'm not talking about religion. You don't have to believe that the universe makes this happen for you. It's just practical. If you think about it, you're going to start putting your energy there. And you're going to end up making it happen. There's still hard work that needs to get done. And I think that's the part I always had a problem with. Because it seems like when people say that kind of stuff, it's like magic. Like the universe is just going to, oh, you want a car? Boom, here you go. And I'm like, it's not how it works in my life. I want a car, and I didn't just get one. So the small shift number 2 is envisioning where we're going to go. And then the third shift is about refining your relationships. So now that you know where you want to go, and you have this big reality that says it's possible, it's about taking control of the people that are in your life rather than just letting serendipity bring people in, out of your life. It's about consciously choosing who do you want to surround yourselves with. Who do you want to spend your time with? I really like the analogy of equating our life with a story. So we all have this book. We're born with this empty book. And every day, people are writing in our book. And our parents have a lot of influence on us when we're young. They write in a lot of pages because they're the only people we know. Then we have uncles and aunts, and we have teachers, and we start reading different books. All of that is just people writing in our book. And so when I spend time with you, I'm letting you write in my book. And that's defining my story. It's defining who I am. So if we hang out with people that like to drink, we're probably going to drink more. If we hang out with people that like to work out, we're going to slowly find that we want to work out more. Now, I have a couple of important distinctions. One is, it's really important that this doesn't become robotic or mechanical. And the second is that it's not about what you're going to get from people, even though it seems like it is at first glance. It's not about, hey, I want to spend time with you so that I can become like you and I want to get something from you. It's actually about giving. Because chances are, if you're hanging out with somebody, you might be further along the path than they are. And most people aren't going to want to spend time with somebody that's not giving anything back to them. So really it's about how can you give to people. You also want to have peers beside you who are moving along the path, the same kind of path, they're going the same direction. Because then you're kind of going through it at the same time. You know, you might have found that these people that are way further along the path have kind of forgotten a little bit about how hard it is, maybe. And so it's nice to have somebody that's with you so you can commiserate and say, man, this is really tough. How did you apply that? Or how did you handle that? And then we encourage each other. It's also important to have people behind us. We're further along the path than them, and we're helping bring them along with us. So you want to have people in all three of those categories. You want to be hanging out with people that are further along the path. And I just think about it real simply. There's this destination I want to get to, and there's me right here, and there's a dotted line between me and that destination. I just want to find people that are further along that dotted line. And if we have 7 different areas that we want to go, we just find people that are further along. Chances are, we already have a lot of people in our life that we need. We just maybe haven't been intentional or conscious about interacting with them in that way. And then there's also the caveat that some people are holding you back. They're preventing you from getting where you want to go. And it's not that you need to shun those people from your life, but you should at least be conscious of it. And you should at least try to diminish that influence that they have on you in that way. So people are either pulling us towards our goals or they're pulling us away. And the small shift that we want to make in this regard is just to spend time with those people that are pulling us where we want to go. Just find some time, get on the phone with them, spend some time in a book. You don't have to, the person doesn't have to know you in order for you to know them. Does that make sense? You can read somebody's book and you have a one-way relationship with that person. They don't know who you are, but you're still getting to know them. There's science that backs that up. So spend some time with people, make that small shift, and you will find over time that you're going to become like these people. You're going to start thinking like them and acting like them. They don't even have to say anything for you to become like them. So the 3 shifts that you can make, one is reimagine your reality. Second is revise your direction in all 7 aspects of wholeness. And then the third is spend time with people that are further along that you want to go. It seems like it's too simple, right? Too good to be true. But if you look at it, it's really just the way that we became who we are. Every idea that we have came from somebody. Ideas don't just spontaneously erupt inside us. They come from somewhere. Beliefs don't just happen. They come from somewhere. So it's taking control of that process and making it work for you rather than just letting it happen to you. And I think it's a lifelong journey. So the prize is there, and I'm really excited by this idea that I can become who I want to be and that you can become who you want to be. And I think it's really just about making that investment, just choosing it, making it happen. And I think the choice is all of ours.